Alabama has been our kryptonite. That's what one insider talked to me about really just after the game Saturday night. I want to make sure y'all are taking advantage of this limited time offer, $2 for 2 months at Dawg Post. I've got the link below. That's the phone call I got. I didn't think I'd get it so quick, frankly, on Saturday night after the game. Now, they were pretty quick to um, be in a good mood, which I thought was strange. But let's discuss this just for a second. No one has beaten Georgia more in the Kirby Smart era than Alabama. They have 4 wins over the Dogs. So I think I'm just going to go off the top of my head. Auburn, Florida, and Tech have all of that combined, if I'm not mistaken. So this has really been the one spot that Kirby has had a hard time. I think everybody knows that. It really, and this is a kind of strange part to me. I don't know. It really warms Alabama fans' hearts to see Kirby lose, which is strange to me. Um, I don't. Well, can someone explain that? Are they just like trigger happy, or well, I don't know. He was a great coach for Alabama for a long time, or is Alabama like? I think some of it is they're worried about him. Number one, although they've won 4 times in a row, I'm not sure what you're worried about. And then secondly, I think that they think they're the big dog, and until they get beat consistently by somebody, they are going to be the big dog. So the team that's played them the closest the entire time that Kirby's been there consistently, I guess maybe is Georgia, but I think I was going to say Auburn. I mean, Auburn's beaten them more than once in that time. So talking about Alabama, and that's been a snake pit for them to get out of. But you're going to have to get past this. I mean, Georgia under Kirby has 15 losses. 4 are from Alabama. They've only played them 4 times. And Kirby's at, let's see, uh, 79 games and 50, but it's the 15 losses where that's so nuts. That's not quite a third of your total losses. And I mean, that's almost hard to mathematically be possible, but it's a great program. You're going up against, unquestionably to me, the greatest coach of all time in college football, getting close to, I mean, if he wins the national championship this year, Nick Saban might be the greatest coach in coaching history. I mean, John Wooden didn't have to deal with what Nick Saban's dealing with. Yes, Bear Bryant, he's better. Nick Saban's better than Bear Bryant. So I don't know. There's just no discussion there. So this is just going to be something that Kirby needs to bust through, not get around. Getting around Alabama isn't going to work. You got to march right through them. The first 2 times these teams played, Georgia was the better team and lost. Uh, they weren't the better team coming into the game. They were the better team that day. Last year, Georgia was not on their level. This year, Georgia came in as the better team and lost. So you're getting to the point now where there's any number of circumstances, but the end result is just that they lose. So you're not quite at a Florida 1990s level. That was a different monster completely. First of all, Georgia and the Gators are arch rivals. Georgia and Alabama are not rivals. So those are arch rivals. Georgia and Bama, it's just a huge, huge game with massive implications. They don't play each other every year. It's just that when they play, it's more often than not in this century, it's been with a championship on the line. Okay. Um, Florida in those 90s, Georgia was a bad program. That's not the case. And Florida was the elite of the elite at the time. For Alabama and Georgia right now, they basically have the dog's number. This is a Yankees Red Sox situation. That's the one that comes to mind quickest and easiest. And I also think the line of parallel there is that you can lose it too if you're the Yankees or Alabama. It can go away. Things always can change. It can always get worse, and things can always change. So those might be the same thing in some situations. But it was curious to hear from this particular insider who has really had a good understanding of the situation at Georgia for some time. and correctly diagnosing that he just didn't think they would beat Alabama last year. Um, and he thought that they would beat them this year, and he still continues to believe that they will beat them if they get into a rematch. But if they play the way they did against Michigan, said there's just no play the way they get against Michigan, the way they did against Alabama. Said there's just no, they will not beat Michigan. So um, there's going to be a lot of focus on the Bama Georgia game, not just for the Dogs. Everything that Alabama is feeling right now is because of the way they played against Georgia. If we were a week ago this time, that was not the feeling with Alabama fans. And everyone knows it to be true. You didn't hear it on Paul's show. You certainly didn't see it at the Dome. They weren't there. I mean, it was a 65%, 70% Georgia crowd. And it's in Atlanta. I mean, Alabama has been 50-50 with the Dogs there the last two times. So there was a seasonal depression coming out of that Auburn game for Alabama. But you can't just kill these guys once. You got to do it a couple of times. And Georgia didn't do that. They did not end the game, and they never really had a chance to end the game. But you're up 10-0 and didn't have the chance to end it because you changed the way that you were, I thought the way you were running the ball. But that's neither here nor there. The way that Georgia folks are acting right now, fans, is because of what happened against Alabama. So no one result is indicative of the way that people should view their team. Las Vegas's view of this thing is much more cold-blooded, and they view them as basically within a point of one another, Alabama and Georgia. They are basically equal, slightly more for Alabama to win the national championship in terms of probability and betting odds. So I think to some degree you have to recognize what happened, and then you have to go from there. The Alabama LSU game in Tuscaloosa in 2010 had nothing to do with the national championship in the Superdome. The Georgia Auburn SEC championship had nothing to do with the way Georgia got beat, which was worse at Jordan-Hare in 2017. It had nothing to do with what happened at the Dome 3 weeks, whatever it was, 3.5 weeks later. Teams can get they can play one really good game in a season. I don't know if we've seen that from Georgia yet. My suspicion is they might have to do that to win the national championship. They might not have to do that to get to the national championship, but they might have to do that to play to win the national championship. As it relates to Alabama, I mean, they got to play better consistently more. I mean, that's all there is to it. And Alabama fans have been super chirpy this week in social media, which is, I mean, that's what happens. It's what it is. But they know it's true too. They know they cannot continue to regress to the mean, and that, or they can. I think they will regress to the mean. They will get back to what they have been typically. What we saw Saturday night, no sacks allowed. That's not what Alabama's been. Alabama on Saturday night did not allow a sack. It didn't happen. That's the only game this season they've not allowed a sack. So they played really well, and that doesn't mean anything moving forward. It doesn't. It just means they played really well that day. And if you don't know that, you're not remembering reality. Do you remember when Georgia beat Nick Saban's brains in 2004, and then a week later lost to Tennessee? Do you remember when Georgia lost to Kentucky in Sanford Stadium in 2009 and it looked awful, and then they beat Georgia Tech, top 10 team on the road? I mean, 1 week does not necessarily have anything to do with the next, but it's a data point. It's a leading indicator, but it's not the end all be all. We'll see you over on the website, dawgpost.com. Take advantage of that $2 for 2 month deal. We'll see you on the website.